All right, so get ready for this, because today we're taking a deep dive into Java programming.
Oh, that's familiar.
But here's the twist. We're doing it through a, wait for it, Hindi language instructional video.
Really?
Yeah, you heard right.
Right.
I know you're probably thinking we've gone off the deep end.
A bit unconventional, yeah.
But trust me, there's a reason for this. Besides getting a glimpse into how other cultures teach coding,
Right.
the analogies in this video, seriously, they're so relatable.
The power of visuals, right?
Exactly. So I was actually surprised by how much I picked up, even though I don't speak a word of Hindi.
That's interesting.
So our mission, should we choose to accept it, is to crack the code, literally,
Yeah.
of basic Java program structure, just based on what we can glean from this Hindi video.
Sounds like a fun challenge.
Right. Kind of like a mental puzzle.
I like it.
Now, the video centers around the classic Hello World program.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, that first rite of passage for any newbie programmer.
Hello World, the gateway to coding.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's actually by dissecting this seemingly simple program
Right.
that we can uncover the fundamental building blocks of Java.
Like what?
Well, think packages, functions, and those all-important classes.
Okay, so I guess it's kind of like
Yeah.
how a house needs like a foundation, walls, and a roof to stand.
Exactly. A program needs these elements to function properly.
Makes sense.
So the video kicks off by comparing functions, get this, to plumbers.
Plumbers. Okay, that's a new one.
Right. I was intrigued too.
So how do plumbers fit into Java programming?
Well, just like a plumber swoops in to fix a leaky faucet, a function performs a specific task when you call it in the code.
So you mean?
And the beauty of it is you can call that same function over and over again.
You do the same task. Yeah.
Exactly. So say you need to add two numbers together, you just call the designated function for that.
It's all about efficiency.
Right. Reusable chunks of code? Brilliant.
Ah, I see where this is going.
So it's not just about writing lines of code, but organizing them into these reusable units.
Smart.
And then we level up to classes.
Oh, yeah. Tell me about classes.
Okay, so classes are like taking a bunch of those skilled plumbers,
Our functions.
yep, and grouping them into a super efficient team.
Okay, I like this analogy.
So like if we had a household repair class,
Okay.
it could contain functions for a plumber, electrician, carpenter, you name it.
A whole team of repair specialists.
Exactly. And this makes your code way more organized and easier to manage.
It's like instead of having a jumbled toolbox,
Yeah,
you've got everything neatly arranged in a specific compartment.
exactly. Now, every Java program needs a starting point, right?
Yeah, where it all begins.
And that's where the main function struts in.
The main act.
So even in our little Hello World program, there's this main event happening.
Precisely.
And here's where it gets a little more technical. We start encountering keywords like public, static, and void.
Ooh, sounds a bit intimidating.
I know, right? But the video actually assures us that we'll dive deeper into those later on.
Okay, good to know.
So for now, just think of the main function as the director yelling action to get the program rolling.
I like that. So the main function sets everything in motion.
Exactly. Now, beyond this big picture of packages, functions, and classes, the video delves into this interesting thing,
What's that?
naming conventions.
Ah, yes, those pesky rules.
Yeah, so it turns out there are specific ways you should name things in your code.
Yeah, like a secret code language among programmers.
Right. And the video highlights two common ones in Java, PascalCase and camelCase.
I've heard of those, but could you refresh my memory?
Of course. So PascalCase is used for naming classes, and each word starts with a capital letter.
Okay, so like household repair in our example.
Yep. And camelCase is used for naming functions, and the first letter is lowercase, but the first letter of each subsequent word is capitalized.
So our plumber function might be fix leaky faucet?
They got it. And the reason for these conventions, it's actually quite clever.
Oh. Why is that?
Well, you can't have spaces in names within code, so programmers came up with this capitalization trick to make things more readable.
That's ingenious. It's amazing how even something like naming has its own rules.
It's all about that clean, organized code.
Makes sense.
So we've got these packages like containers, classes, like construction crews and functions.
Yeah.
Our skilled plumbers all coming together.
To build a program, yeah.
Exactly. But what about making notes within the code itself?
Ah, good question. Is there a way to leave reminders or explanations?
Well, yes. And the video touches on this too.
Okay, tell me more.
It's the concept of code comments.
Comments, like leaving notes for yourself or others who might read the code later.
Precisely. And in Java, you use these double forward slashes, to indicate a comment.
So the computer ignores anything after those slashes.
Yep. It's like whispering secrets to other programmers, or even your future self.
I like that analogy. It shows that good coding is not just about the computer understanding.
Yeah.
It's also about communicating clearly with other humans.
Absolutely. So you see, this Hindi video, even though we don't understand the language, it's revealing so much more than just the mechanics of Java.
It's about the mindset, the best practices.
Right. And it just goes to show how much of programming is about logic, problem solving, and clear communication.
Universal concepts, no matter the language.
Exactly. All right. I don't know about you, but my brain is starting to feel a little overloaded.
Yeah, we've covered a lot of ground, from plumbing emergencies to secret code languages.
It's been quite a journey, and we haven't even written a single line of code yet.
So maybe it's time for us to take a little breather.
Yeah, let's give our listener a moment to digest all this as well.
We'll be back soon to delve even deeper into this Hello World program.
And see how all these pieces actually fit together in a real Java program.
Stay tuned. Welcome back. I hope you've had a chance to kind of process all those Java concepts we threw at you.
Yeah, my head's still spinning a bit from plumbing analogies and secret naming conventions.
It's a lot to take in, for sure.
But hey, that's what makes these deep dives so much fun, right?
Right. It's all about exploring these different approaches to understanding code.
Exactly. Now, before we took that little break, we were just starting to get into packages.
Oh, right. Those containers for our code.
Yeah, and how they help organize things on a larger scale.
So it's like creating separate folders on your computer.
Yeah, or workspaces for different projects.
The video uses this example of different companies developing software.
Oh, I see. So,
Like if you're writing code for, let's say, Google,
yeah.
you'd use a different package name than if you were working for, like, Microsoft.
It's like giving each company its own dedicated space to work in, so their code doesn't clash.
Exactly. It's all about preventing mix-ups, especially when you're dealing with massive amounts of code.
It's like those coding collisions you hear about.
Yeah, you want to avoid those at all costs.
So packages are essential for keeping everything organized and preventing those conflicts.
And these package names, they're usually related to the company or organization.
So it's like branding your code, in a way.
Right, establishing ownership and making it clear where the code came from.
Okay, so we've talked about packages, classes, functions, but how do these actually come together in a real program?
Right, it's time to see how these ingredients make a cake.
I'm ready to see how the sausage is made.
Okay, so let's break down the Hello World program that the video walks through.
Okay, so we're looking at the actual code now.
Yep, imagine the code is right there in front of us.
What's the first thing that jumps out?
Well, the first thing you'll notice is a line of code that declares the package.
Oh, so it's like saying, this code belongs to this particular project folder.
Exactly. It sets the context for everything that follows.
Okay, and then what?
Then you'll see the declaration for the class.
Remember our household repair class?
That's the one. And within the class declaration, you'll find the main function.
Ah, yes, the starting point.
And inside the main function are the actual instructions to make the program do something.
In this case, it's displaying hello world.
Exactly. So you see how it all nests together, creating this hierarchical structure.
It's like those Russian nesting dolls, each one fitting inside the next.
That's a great way to visualize it. And that structure, that's consistent even as programs get more complex.
So you're saying even in a giant program with millions of lines of code,
Yep.
this basic structure of packages, classes, and functions still applies.
It's the foundation, the blueprint.
It's like mastering the art of building a simple house before you tackle a skyscraper.
Exactly. And speaking of foundations, remember those keywords we mentioned earlier? Public, static, and void.
Yeah, the ones that sounded a bit like a foreign language.
Well, they might seem intimidating, but they play specific roles in how the main function works.
Okay, I'm ready for some more jargon busting.
All right, so public. Think of it like a sign that says, everyone can access this function.
So other parts of the program can call and execute the main function.
That's right. And static means the function belongs to the class itself.
Not to a specific object created from that class.
You got it. It's like a shared tool that the whole class can use.
And what about void? That one always throws me off.
Void just means this function doesn't return a specific value.
It just performs an action.
Right, like displaying hello world on the screen.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense now. So even those cryptic keywords have clear meanings.
Yep, it's all part of this logical structure.
So the key takeaway here is that even a simple Java program reveals this incredibly organized way of structuring code.
It's not just a random jumble of lines, it's a well-defined system.
And that system is built on these fundamental building blocks, those packages, classes, and functions.
All working together in harmony.
Now, what I found really interesting about that Hindi video
Yeah.
was how they explain these concepts, not in a dry, technical way.
They use those creative analogies, like the plumber.
Right, it made it so much more accessible.
They really tapped into those everyday experiences to explain these abstract ideas.
It makes you wonder, what other real-world examples could we use?
To represent these relationships, yeah.
Like, if a package is like a container for code, what else could we compare it to? A library, maybe?
Ooh, I like that. A library full of books.
Yeah, and each book could be like a class.
Containing different chapters on specific topics.
And those chapters can be seen as the functions within that class.
Performing specific tasks, like conveying information.
So if I want to learn about astronomy,
Right.
I'd head to the science section of the library and find a book on astronomy.
And that book would have chapters on planets, stars, galaxies.
Each chapter going into detail about a specific concept.
It's all about breaking down a complex subject into manageable pieces.
Just like packages, classes, and functions create this organized system for managing information.
It's a brilliant analogy. It highlights how these seemingly technical concepts
Yeah.
have these parallels in our everyday lives.
I'm starting to see Java in a whole new light. It's not just about writing code, it's about creating these systems.
For organizing and manipulating information.
It's about logic and architecture.
And that brings us back to one of the core takeaways from this deep dive.
Which is?
Understanding the fundamental structure of a Java program is crucial for any aspiring programmer.
It's like the foundation for building anything more complex.
And it's amazing to see how these core concepts can be taught and learned in such diverse ways.
Who would have thought a Hindi language instructional video would be so insightful?
It really highlights the power of clear communication.
And the fact that the language of programming transcends cultural boundaries.
It does. So to our listener, I encourage you to keep exploring, experimenting.
Don't be afraid to dive into those unconventional learning experiences.
You never know where you'll find inspiration.
Or what unique perspective will shed light on a complex topic.
That's so true. So we'll leave you with that thought for now.
Keep those analogies in mind. They can be powerful tools for understanding.
And we'll be back soon to continue our deep dive into Java.
I'm still thinking about that library analogy.
It may neat, huh?
It really is. I mean, who knew organizing code could feel so literary?
It's all about those connections, those sparks that make abstract ideas click.
Speaking of which, before the break, you challenged our listener to, come up with their own real-world examples.
Right, to represent those packages, classes, and functions.
So, did anything come to mind for you?
Well, I mean, besides that library we were talking about,
Yeah.
we could think of a company as a package.
Okay, a company. How so?
Well, within a company, you have different departments, right?
Yeah, sure.
And those departments, those could be our classes.
So each department has a specific function within the company.
Exactly. Just like classes have their roles within a program.
And then within each department, you've got individual employees doing specific tasks.
Those would be our functions.
Okay, so let's say the marketing department is a class.
Okay, yeah.
Within that class, you might have functions for social media, email marketing, content creation.
Perfect example. And then the company as a whole, with all its departments and their functions.
That's the package. You got it.
It's amazing how these concepts can be applied to so many different things.
Right. This underlying structure, you see it everywhere.
It's like we're uncovering this, hidden organizational pattern of the universe.
And that's one of the things that makes programming so fascinating. It's not just about the code itself.
It's about thinking systematically, breaking down problems.
Exactly. Those big, messy problems. You got to impose some order on them.
Create a system that actually works efficiently.
And once you grasp these fundamental principles,
Yeah.
you can apply them to anything, not just coding.
It's like having a mental toolkit ready to tackle any challenge.
You know how to break things down, categorize them, create that logical flow.
It's got to be useful no matter what you're doing.
Absolutely. And, that brings us back to the heart of this deep dive.
Starting with that Hindi video.
Right. We started with this kind of unconventional source.
But we were able to pull out these universal truths about programming.
We didn't even need to understand the language. Those visuals, those analogies, they did all the heavy lifting.
It's a testament to, clear communication.
And the fact that logic It's a universal language.
It really is.
Wow.
So to our listener, just a reminder, stay curious.
Don't be afraid to explore those unconventional paths
You never know what you'll discover.
where inspiration might strike.
Or what might suddenly make a complex topic crystal clear.
It's true. Well, on that note,
Yeah.
I think it's time to wrap up this episode of The Deep Dive.
We've had quite the journey.
From plumbing emergencies to company analogies, all thanks to a Hindi language instructional video.
Who would have thought?
But that's the beauty of these deep dives, isn't it?
Always something new to uncover.
So until next time,
Happy coding.
and keep those analogies coming.